Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar of how to buy a home in Utrecht. Before we get started, can everyone just type in the chat? Can you hear me and see me properly? Just to make sure that we have everything sorted out. Can you see the screen? Can you hear me? And can you see me at all? Just reply the answer in the chat so I can continue, guys. Could you see me and hear me? Perfect. Thank you very much for the confirmation. So let's move forward. So my name is Katie. I am originally coming from Cyprus, but I am half British as well. I was born and raised in Cyprus. And at the moment, I live in Rotterdam, where I do really call my home away from home. That's it about me. Let's see who I am talking to today. So just interested to see where you are at the moment and really what made you decide to buy. So then we can understand a little bit more of who we are talking to. You should have a pop-up in front of your screen. So please go ahead and answer that. I see some answers coming in. So, okay, it's a fight between I like to settle or the rents are too high. Building equity is quite strong there as well. So guys, a lot of you want to settle. I can definitely relate to that and understand that. I'll just give a few more seconds. Okay, perfect. So I see that most of you would like to settle down in the Netherlands. And then secondly, the rents are getting a little bit too high. Thank you very much for your answers. That's really helpful for the rest of the presentations. By the way, if you do have any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat. My colleague Giovanna is here with us today, and she will be in chat support. So any questions you have at any point, just pop them in there and my colleague will pick up. Perfect. So a little bit more about us. Of course, the greatness is achieved with the agency of others. What do we mean by that? Is that in EHN, we have a very strong team spirit. Here is the rest of the team that will also be working on your files. As I mentioned before, Giovanna is in chat support. We have Ludo that supports mainly in Amsterdam. We have Rick that supports in the south. Together with me, we have Ellen, our administrator, and of course we have Rafaela to support us more on the north side in the Netherlands. A little bit about us, of course, we're not traditional real estate agents. What do we mean by that? Is that we help with buying and renting, so not selling or letting. We have a fixed rate, so we don't charge any commission on that. That is super nice, of course, if you're looking to buy a house. We know exactly what it is like to settle in a new country. As you saw before, most of us are actually internationals, so we can definitely empathize with what you're going through that right now. And then, of course, what is our added value? Of course, agents will take our offers more seriously. In general, when you are more prepared and represented, agents will take your offers more seriously. We can sometimes, and a lot of times, book viewings when it's not longer possible for you guys. Sometimes the selling agents will have a special agent day, and then they will only provide that availability to agents that they know, worked before with, and they're confident moving forward with. We can support you by reviewing Dutch legal documents, contracts, property documents. Some of us do not speak Dutch. We come from other countries, but we have a very good core of the Dutch people or people who are fluent in Dutch that are examining these documents for you. So we can reassure you that that is 100% checked. We help define the market value through market data. That is super important when you're calculating your finances and making offers. It is super nice and very important to understand what exactly is the market doing, how much the bank will give you, how much should we buy the property for. And of course, we will inform you about rules and regulations that are related to your city or your property. And of course, we try to assure you that you will not make the same mistakes as we did, of course, when we were trying to do this process for ourselves. A little bit about today. So we're going to talk about market info, some market drivers, of course, savings, and what are the kind of savings you will need before entering the markets. I'll give you some tips on how to win the market, of course, and we'll talk a little bit more about the timeline so you have an idea what to expect when you're buying a house in the Netherlands. So before we move forward, I'll just like to know, where in the process are you at the moment? Are you still like orienting, searching, maybe already viewing, or have you already submitted an offer? You can pop your answer in the chat. The reason I'm asking is so I can have a better idea and understanding of how can I support you later on, of course, in this presentation. So I'm just interested to know where in the process are you right now? Are you in the orientation phase, in the searching phase, or in the viewing phase? I hope you haven't submitted an offer without an agent. So I'm just waiting to hear that. You can pop your answers in the chat, guys. So just waiting there for a few minutes. Are you searching, viewing, or have submitted an offer already? You can answer in the chat. I'll just give a few seconds for you guys. I don't see any answers coming in. You can type your answer in the chat. Okay, let's see. I think there's an issue with the chat because everyone is raising their hands. So are you guys able to perhaps chat? Okay. Wait, let's have a second here. I'm just trying to see, guys, what is going on exactly. Guys, just give me a second. There's a issue with the chat. I'll be back with you in just a few seconds. I'll just quickly arrange this. Be right back. Unfortunately, it is not possible to change the settings right now. So what we will do is please note your questions down. We will send a recording of this video so you can get back to us with questions directly. And what I will try to do is see whether I can allow a few of you to talk so we can go through some questions at the end of this webinar. So for now, just hang in there. And then if you have any questions, we'll return back to that at the end of this webinar. So moving forward, here are some interesting numbers for you to see and know. We have here the average selling price development in the Netherlands since 2005. In 2022, by Q1, that's 426,000 euros. But that is a general average in the Netherlands. A little bit more specifically talking about Utrecht. So we see that this quarter, Utrecht sold around 3,500 properties. That was 2% more since last year and 31% since last quarter. That's quite a sharp increase. Properties that were for sale were almost 1,200. That is 64% from last year and 69% since last quarter. So Utrecht is keep increasing in a positive way. We see that the average price remains the same from last quarter at 510. However, this is an increase of almost 10% since last year. Regarding the average price per square meter, that can change slightly. It is 4,695. That is almost 11% since last year and 1.4 since last quarter. Regarding sales time, that has remained the same. That's 21 days. But yeah, kid you not, that is quite quick, guys. So do be prepared that this will be quite intense and a quick process for you once you have your offer. Moving forward, let's talk about market drivers. So what causes the prices to increase or decrease? Of course, we have the fiscal benefits. At the moment, we have the tax exemption. That means that if you're buying a property that is worth less than 400,000, and you are younger than 35 doesn't count, but younger than 35, and never bought a house in the Netherlands before, then that means you're not liable to pay the 2% transfer tax that is tied down to every sale or purchase in the Netherlands. If you're over 35, or if your property will be more than 400, or if you have used this in the past before, then of course you will have to pay the 2% transfer tax on the property. At the moment, we still have an interest rebate. So that means that at the end of the financial year, you can deduct your mortgage interest rate from your income. So that is, of course, super nice. At the moment, there are no capital gains when you sell a property in the Netherlands. So you can buy a property, keep it for a few years, and then when you sell it, you don't get taxed on the profit. So that is, of course, a very good reason for people to keep investing. At the moment, we also have the tax-free parent donation. This will be ending completely in 2024. And in 2023, they will reduce the tax-free amount from 100,000 to 30,000. So if you are part of this, if your parents or close family are gifting money to you for the purpose of buying a home, then make sure you talk to the tax authorities so you know exactly until when you can use that money without having them being taxed. Of course, the low interest rates, we see that the interest rates are being increased since the beginning of this year. However, they are relatively quite low. And then when the money is cheap, of course, people want to borrow that money and invest it in something that will be profitable for them. And as you all know, high rents. Of course, it doesn't make sense to pay such a high rent when at the same time you can pay perhaps equal the amount that you pay at the rent, but also buy a stone of your house every month. And of course, we also have the never-ending problem here in the Netherlands, the lack of supply. So I believe last time I checked, it is projected that they will need to build around 100,000 properties for the next 10 years to cover the demand that they have. Of course, that is just taking current data and calculating that. There are some plans in certain municipalities and areas to start building that kind of amount for the next year or 2 years. But in general, just so you know, the Netherlands has a big issue in the supply of properties. So there are many people who are looking to buy instead of selling, let's say. Some news that might be interesting for you. So in March 18, 2022, it was introduced in Utrecht, the self-occupancy clause, which meant that if you had a property with a value that, with a WOZ value that is up to 440, that means that you will not be able to rent it. However, this has also been updated last month, July 1st. And the WOZ value limit went from 440 to 87. That means that if the property has a WOZ value of 487, you will not be able to rent it and you will have to live there yourself. The reason they do these regulations is because they try to keep investors outside the lower range properties. So therefore, of course, you will still have competition among average buyers like you, but you will not be dealing with investors that have a big amount of cash flow and they're able to just buy properties and be super competitive. Another thing that is interesting to know is that since the 1st of July, it is mandatory to have smoke detectors within your properties. If you go in a house and you see that they don't have the smoke detectors, don't say, okay, it's not a good house. I mean, you can still buy the machine and install it yourself. It can cost you anything between 20 and 60 euros, of course, depending where you buy it. But just do keep in mind that you will need to have smoke detectors by law. And then lastly, regarding the interest rate, so we have seen that last year it was already projected that the interest rates will, of course, start rising due to inflation. We see that that is still happening. However, we see a little bit more stabilization than the first quarter, of course. And the average interest rates at the moment are between 3 and 4%. There are some deductions that you can have depending on the property you can buy. So make sure you talk to your mortgage advisor regarding that if you're interested to have some deduction on the interest rate. So regarding savings, I would usually ask here, what do you think you'll need in savings? But since this will not be able, then what I will do is just share with you this table and go through it and explain a little bit, okay? So If you're liable to pay a transfer tax, then of course you will need to pay that as a 2% of the purchase price. Okay, so if you're going over that budget, or if you are not eligible to avoid the transfer tax, then make sure you calculate the 2% of your final price for paying the tax. Then you will need a notary. The notary will be the legal entity that will supervise this process and will make sure that the property is transferred to you in a legal manner, of course. If you are buying a house with a mortgage, then they will need to create a mortgage deed for you. That will be anything between 600 and 1,100. And then the transfer deed that relates to the transfer of the property, that of course will be the same price. You will see here that anything that is related to the mortgage, it is also tax deductible. So at the end of the year, you can deduct the tax from these services. So it's also a small and nice discount to have, of course. A bank or a mortgage advisor will cost you anything between 1,500 and 3.5. Let's say it really depends where you go. I would suggest check both of your options. Banks will only be limited to their own products, but mortgage advisors will be able to offer you a lot more products from different banks. So sometimes it is actually better to be with a private mortgage advisor instead only with a bank. A typical real estate agent will cost you between 1 and 2% of the purchase price. That is commission based. EHN charges a fixed rate. I will talk about that a little bit later. And of course, if you want to find more about our service and our packages, you can always feel free to book an intake with us and we'll walk you through them. An appraiser, this is a person that will come and actually give the value of the house. This is super important and it is obligated if you're going with a mortgage, because the bank will not give you more than 100% of the value of the house. So if your house that you're buying is 450 and the value is at 400, and let's say you can borrow $1 million, it doesn't matter. They will only give you the value of the house, which is 400. That implies that you will need to cover the difference between the purchase price and the value of the property by your own savings. Okay, I will talk a little bit about that later, but let's just focus on the buying cost at the moment. So an appraisal will cost you between 650 and 800, only obligated if you have a mortgage. If not, you can choose to skip this. Technical inspector will cost you around 450 euros. It is optional and to be discussed with your agent whether you're going to have it or not. An interpreter, you will need that at the final stage, will cost you between 300 euros and 350 euros. For some specific languages, that will be a little bit more. And then, of course, you have a bank guarantee. That means that the mortgage provider will make sure that they will transfer the 10% deposit that you need to pay. For this, you will need to pay 250 euros. Or some mortgage providers charge 1% of the guaranteed amount. And then, of course, you have here the NHG. This is just an extra layer of safety. You can only get it if your property is worth under the WOZ value of the property is 355. So you will need to stay way below on the lower range for that. And it will cost you a little something, but it does offer some extra protection, which is always super nice to have. Make sure you talk to your mortgage advisor about that. Now, regarding tips to win the market. So of course, the most important thing is the value. Let me explain this a little bit better. So you'd see this property and it has an asking price at 395. Please keep in mind that the asking price does not reflect the value of the house. 95% of the times, the asking price is placed 10 to 15% below of the value. And what you have to do here in the Netherlands is first, go up to the value, because it is a seller's market. It is very rarely that people will sell under the value. So most of the times you will need to meet the value. And then based on market data and recent sales, you get to see what the competition is like in the area. And then, of course, if you want to be competitive and have a real chance for your offer, you will need to go higher than the value. How higher? That really depends on the property and the area you're looking at. you should be able to discuss this with your agent. And if you do choose to work with us, then what we do is provide you with all the sources, and we have meetings to explain in detail our findings, and of course explain the logic behind the proposed price that we give you. So the asking price is 395, but the value is turns out to be 415. And let's hypothetically say that you're buying the property at 435, which is actually a pretty good price. So you see that the difference between the asking price versus the purchase price is 10%. That is 40K. But the value, the difference between the value and the purchase price is 5%. So that is the thing you need to focus on. What is the difference between the market value and the purchase price? Now, there's a myth going on that you should always bid, I don't know, 15%, 20% above the value of the asking price, and then you will be competitive. That is not always true, because let's say now it is the same property, but we have an asking price of 375. So they just decided to put it lower. That automatically means, of course, the market value remains the same. It's the same property, same goes with the purchase price. But then you see that the difference between the asking price and the purchase price is 16%. So that is higher than before, 60K. However, the difference between the value and the purchase price, it remains the same, 5%, 20K. So that's how much you will need to add yourself. Again, the bank will give you 100% of the value of the house, assuming that you can borrow the amount of money, okay? So the asking price, again, guys, don't see it as an indication or anything like that. It can really be on the value, above the value, lower than the value. Usually it is lower, but it's good to always double check this with your agent, okay? Now, a winning offer. What makes a winning offer? Offer a good price, of course, that is super important, but it is not always the highest price. So you need to offer security to the seller. One way you can do this is by removing the financing clause. What that means is that if you do remove it, then you have the risk as a buyer to pay a 10% fine if your mortgage doesn't get accepted. But if you do keep it, then that means that the seller will only find out if you're moving forward 6 or 8 weeks later when the bank gets back to you. So it is a very, very competitive clause, but it can put you at risk. We personally do not remove that clause if we don't have the green light from your mortgage advisor. Your mortgage advisor is the one to give you the advice on this. So when you start making offers, make sure that you discuss this clause, because it can really, really make a difference. We many times have it that our offer is first in price without the financing clause, with a financing clause, and then they have a second price that is slightly lower without one, and they choose to go with that. And we also have it in the other way around. Many times our offers were second or third with not being the highest price, but we got accepted because we didn't have the financing clause. So keep that in mind, something to be discussed, of course, with every offer that you make. Also, offer the least amount of hassle. Like if they're telling you that they can only transfer the property 6 or 8 months from now, don't try to make them transfer the property in a month, okay? I mean, if you want to do that, you can always discuss it, but keep in mind you will need to offer something that they say, okay, we cannot deny this, so we're going to go out and rent for 6 months or something. Make sure you will need to do that, but try to make it as easy as possible for them. So if they're moving out and going to a different country and they want to leave the dining table behind for 50 years, go ahead and buy it. You know, it is not a deal breaker. You can also sell it yourself if you don't want it, or gift it to someone, I don't know. But just think about these things. Try to make it convenient for the owner. Also, offer a personal touch. When you're sending an offer, make sure you always attach a little picture of you and a few words. Owners are interested to know who you are, and the selling agents are interested to know who you are. They want to know, okay, what are you doing here? Do you have a stable job? What type of person you are, like, what do you like? It is very nice for them to have access to that information, and it doesn't hurt to introduce yourself. So make sure you do that. Number 3 will be due diligence. Okay, this is a very important part. We have the technical inspector and the appraiser. So once an offer gets accepted, that's when things will start moving very, very quick. The first thing to do is to book these experts to come. Of course, let me show you the timeline. As you see here, so the offer gets accepted. Directly after, you will need to book those experts. Of course, we can support you doing that. And then you have around 1 week to 1.5 weeks until you sign the contract. Okay, so it is really important that those experts come in that time. So then we're able to get some results at least before you sign the contract or within the cooling off period. That will depend on the policy of the agents, of course, and you will discuss the timeline and every step with your agent. But it is highly important that they're booked very quick. And of course, the appraiser will be the person, again, who will come and evaluate your property. You will need that if you're going with a mortgage. Technical inspector will come and visually inspect the property, and they will let you know what kind of maintenance do you need. So if the property is very old, for example, that is recommended to do. Then let me talk a little bit more about the timeline. You see here that of course, there's a point where you start your search, and there's a point where you submit an offer. Once an offer gets accepted, of course, as mentioned, the first thing to do is book the appraiser and the technical inspector. Right after you have the signing contract. The moment that you have a signed contract, your mortgage application can already start. So that can be within the same day. And then you notice here that there's a 3 days cooling off period. So you as a buyer, from the moment you sign the contract, you're entitled to have a 72 working hours as a cooling off period, which means that if you change your mind, you can pull out of the offer. But I do warn you from now, you don't want to be stuck in a situation where you're not able to do that anymore, and then you need to pay a 10% fine for nothing. So just don't make any offers for houses that you're not willing to buy. We have a lot of people, well, we've met a lot of people who made offers, just first few offers, and they got their first offer accepted, for example, and then they decided, oh, but yeah, I wasn't very serious about it. So they withdraw their offer, which, okay, I mean, it's fine. You don't want to buy a house, you don't want to buy a house. But then I swear to God, it was so difficult for them to get a house because they sort of like got blacklisted in their area that they were looking, that agents will not accept their offers anymore. It was like, this can happen. Agents do talk with each other. So just make an offer only if you're willing to buy a house. Okay. If you're not sure, then it's better not to make the offer. Moving forward, you will have around 2 to 4 weeks until your mortgage gets approved. And then after your mortgage gets approved, you get a statement of completion. This is an email from the notary, a final note. They will provide a statement of everything that you will need to pay. Your agent fees will be there, the transfer tax will be in there, the purchase price will be in there, your mortgage fees will be there. The only 2 things that you will need to pay in advance will be the appraiser and the technical inspector. Altogether will be around 1,500 and 2,000 euros. Everything else you pay at the end of the process when the property is being transferred to you. So as I mentioned before, if the property is transferred to you 6 months from now, then the day that you need to pay the rest of the cost will be in 6 months from now. So that will also give you some flexibility to save some money. After you receive that email, then of course the last step would be that you become the legal owner of the property. You will first, it's an agreed date, of course, that you have with the owner. The first thing to do is go at the property and have a last round of checks, make sure that everything is okay. If you had any agreements, that those agreements have been made. There are no damages. Maybe they broke their window when they were moving out or something. So just a last round of checks to make sure that everything is okay. And then of course you go at the notary's office to sign the mortgage deed and the transfer deed, and of course get your keys handed over. From that point onward, then of course you are the owner of your own home, and you can do whatever you want with it. Make sure you follow the law though, okay? A little bit more about our packages. We have the Smart package. This is at 3,000 euros. We have the complete package at 4. We have 2 different prices here. If you do go below, if your property is below 500,000, that means you will pay less. If that goes higher than 500,000, that is a little bit more of a charge. And we also have the new build package. If you're interested to know more about that, make sure you sign up for our webinar on new builds in the Netherlands. It is a different process and it's for properties that don't exist yet. So if you want to know more, just make sure you book an intake with us. We'll just discuss over it, no obligations, of course. And now for existing buildings, the difference between the smart package and the complete package, you see here that, of course, we support you throughout the whole way. So, of course, we support you when you're doing your viewings, like if you have any questions or anything, we submit and negotiate your offers. We prepare reviews for you to see before you make an offer so you can make an informed decision. We help you book the experts. We review your contract and make sure you also understand it before you sign it. We keep in touch with your mortgage advisor and the timelines just to make sure that everything is according to plan. And of course, we do communicate with the notary if there's anything that we need to communicate for. The difference is that the complete package is a physical package, so we schedule and attend viewings with you, whereas in the smart package, we don't do that. And of course, we also attend the other meetings, right? So we are there at the last inspection, we are there at the notary, and of course, we are there with you on the transfer date. So the most important days for more people. My recommendation is generally start with the small. If you feel like you need the more support, then go with the complete. But we see that most of the times people are very, very satisfied with the smart package. If you want to talk about this more, just book an intake with us. We'll be happy to go over your questions. Yeah, this is the point where we would go through your questions. Unfortunately, today we can't. There some reason there has been a technical issue. Okay, if someone can raise their hand, then what I can do is see if I can allow you to talk. And then we can see if we can go through your questions there. I don't see any raised hands at the moment, so I understand if you don't want to do that. Okay, there we go. I'm going to try Laura. We go first. There we go. Can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, not very loud for some reason.
Any change now?
Okay, give me 1 second only.
Hi Laura, hi Katie. I can hear her, so you can tell me and I can tell Katie if you.
Perfect. Thank you. I'll join in a minute.
All right.
Hi.
Hey, thanks for the presentation. It's already super useful. I have a question that's not directly related to the presentation, but maybe you have a easy answer. For property change a lot depending on the energy level, and I'm curious if this is something that can be kind of adjusted, or you can optimize the house after you buy it.
Did you hear, Katie?
Yes, I just heard. Okay. So I didn't hear the first part. Is this related to the mortgage interest rate?
No,
it's related to the asking price.
To the asking price. She wants to know about the asking price related with the energy label of the house, because the price changes as the energy label also changes. So
the asking price doesn't relate. The logic behind making the asking price, of course, the selling agents will make some calculations, and then they will say, okay, this is the minimum that we take. But it doesn't relate to the energy label. And of course, after you buy your home, then you can always do things to upgrade the energy label. There's insulation you can do, depending on what kind of windows you can change. Boiler is one of the things that you change, and your energy label directly changes. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, perfect. So they're not really too related.
No, the asking price is more, yeah, I mean, of course, if a house is brand new and has an energy label A, you will see that the asking price will be a little bit higher and not so low, of course, but it's not necessarily related, no.
Okay, thank you very, very much.
Of course. Okay, I'm gonna go to the next person. Let's see. Nadia, you're up next. Let's see. Can you talk with us, Nadia? You're on mute. You're
Can you
permitted.
hear me now?
There we go. Yeah, perfect.
Okay, hi. No, actually, I was interested about the new buildings. I would like to know when you need to start process with the buildings that are not have not been built, that does not exist yet.
Okay, as soon as possible. The difficult part with the new builds is that there's a long list in registration. So what I advise you to do is the moment you find something that you're interested, then you directly sign up in the project website. Yeah. Then you get an account, and you'll be able to enter some details and some preferences. And then they have their own policy on how to choose candidates. Sometimes is whoever came first, sometimes is based on preferences, sometimes is based on finances. So it will really depend on the project policy, but make sure you sign up. And then the only thing you can do is just wait for them to contact you. And if they give you the option, that is when it starts. I'll suggest, I really recommend that you go on our website and book an intake with us so we can talk a little bit more about the process. It is very different from the existing property, so it will be good to talk about it in detail, okay?
Okay, and that's because I'm completely new in the Netherlands. I know absolutely nothing. This is more of an orientation for me. And I realized there are some new buildings being built in the city, in the center of Utrecht. So
yeah, just book an intake with us. We'll be happy to talk about it, guys. Keep in mind, by the way, the intake is not like obligated. Like you're not obligated to continue with us or anything like that. It's more to just present the information to you, and you can make your decision later. It's no obligated. Free of any charge or anything like that. So just book an intake and we'll talk to you there, okay?
Katie, if I may, Nadia, just one more tip. Most of the city halls, they put the newly buildings on their own website. So we can check your city hall website, and then they have a list, and then you can already subscribe, even for buildings that the projects that will be only be available, for example, in 2 or 3 years, because the process has already been done with the permits and everything. So you can find them there already, most of them. So you can already subscribe even before everyone else. You don't have to wait for them to show up on funde.nl, for example.
Okay, thank you so much.
And I have also sent you a link, sorry, not a link, but a name in the chat. I realized I pronounced it wrong, but put it in Google and you will get a list of all the new builds projects that are happening in the Netherlands. But make sure you sign up on the project website and not only through that account, okay?
Okay, thank you so much.
Perfect. Thank you very much for your question. So I'm gonna let you go, and Mark is up next. Hi, Mark. You're on mute, but you're allowed to talk. So if you unmute yourself, you'll be able. Yeah, there we go. Hi.
Yeah, hello. Yeah, Mark here. Yeah, just quick question about and thanks for the presentation already. Very good and questions. So, but there's a role of appraiser, and did I understand correctly? He or she will define the value of the house, but why is it happening at that point of after making an offer?
Because usually there is not even enough time to bring someone to evaluate the property before you make an offer, okay? So the agents will just find that pointless because they're doing a lot of viewings. And the common sense behind that is that, okay, let's say that the selling agent allows you to have someone to come and appraise the property before you even decide if you make an offer, okay?
Yes.
And then the value comes out, and then you say, okay, I'm up for this, I'm going to make an offer. And then your offer is rejected. Then what happens? You still need to pay 800 euros to the appraiser.
Right. Okay, I understand.
So what we do, and what every agent should do actually, is that we help you define the market value before you make the offer. So I will not be able to say, okay, it's going to be 295. You know, I will never be able to pinpoint it down, because the appraiser will also not be able to do that unless they visit the property. But we will give you a range, and we will say, okay, it's going to be between 295 and 300 or 295 and 305. We will give you our advice, like it's most likely it's going to be higher because of the finishing. And of course, if we do have any challenges with that, because guys, like comparing properties and everything is not always super easy, right? There's so many things that you need to look at, and the differences can be quite a lot sometimes. So if we see that we struggle ourselves, then of course we contact our advisors and our appraisers, and we ask them, hey, we know you cannot give us the exact amount if you don't visit the property, but what do you think? What is your opinion? You know, and we also have that support there. So the point is to define the market value beforehand, so you can calculate your finances and make an informed offer. And then after that, the expert will come in to evaluate it and give you exactly the amount that you can borrow. And I have to say from experience, Giovanna, I don't know if you're going to agree with this, I think 90% of the times the value will be higher than what we have said to you. So the appraisers are usually going to the properties and they see, oh, this is better than the pictures, or this is better, this is better. And then they're able to raise it a little bit. Not always, but sometimes they do. Giovanna, could you agree with that, or?
I dare to say 94% even.
Okay.
Yes. And then one thing about the appraisal is only mandatory if you need a mortgage. Huh? Yeah. So that's also why you don't bring them before. If you bring them before, you just when you see the house, you're going to have to pay around 600 to 800 euros every time, because they won't give you a price for free. So that's also something that it doesn't really doesn't really match with the whole process, though. You just bring the appraiser after your offer gets accepted. You have anyway 1.5 weeks until you sign the purchase agreement, more or less. So then by then you're going to have your value, maybe not the report, but that's the value. It's what you need for sure. And then the report is fine. It's 80 something pages that you can receive afterwards, as long as you know how much it will be. And then you can assure your mortgage advisor, he will know that it'll be okay for your mortgage. So that's actually what you need.
Yeah. Does that answer your question, Mark? Is it clear, or is it getting more confusing?
No, it's excellent. Thanks a lot. Just a quick follow-up. For the appraiser role, it's unknown to me, but are those people, are they licensed to do this? So
yeah,
because
yeah, you can only have an appraiser report by someone who is licensed.
All right. Are they public or private?
They're private. So anyone can be an appraiser. Of course, they need to study for it. And then what happens is that they make their report, and then they send the report to NWWI. This is the appraiser organization in the Netherlands. That's the government body for it. Well, it could be semi-government, I'm not very sure. But then they are responsible to give the final approval. So everything is super monitored and super checked.
Thanks. No more questions from me. Thanks a lot.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Okay, guys, I don't see any more hands, so I am not sure if okay, no, one more hand. Let's go. Hey, is it Selene or Celine?
Selene.
Selene, nice to meet you.
Thank you, Kima. Nice to meet you. Thank you for your presentation also. My question is about getting loan from the banks. I heard from some friends it's not possible to get whole amount of the price of house. Getting a loan for this is not possible. How can we understand if we can get 100% of the price?
You will not be able to get 100% of the purchase price. If it's like, you will only be able to do that if you buy a property on value. So it means that you're offering, I'm going to say an imaginary number, 400,000, and then the report of the value comes out to 400,000. Then that means that you can get 100% of the price, assuming you can borrow 400,000. Okay, if you can't borrow, they will not give you, of course. But then most of the times they will cover 100% of the value. And yeah, usually you will need to exceed the value of the property if you want to be competitive. I'm not gonna lie, like we have done it many times before that we ended up buying on the value for our clients, but that didn't happen intentionally. That happened after the appraiser was able to visit the property, and then they were able to raise the value because it turned out that it was a good property, and sometimes that value matched up the purchase price, which was a super nice surprise, but it is not something that can be guaranteed or something like that. So you can make offers on values, but do keep in mind that it will take a longer time for you to have something, if you have something, of course.
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very, very much. Okay, we have Serena and Tim coming up next. You're muted, guys. Yeah, I can hear you now.
Hi, Kimo. Hi, thank you. So we're just literally just looking at the housing market just now. So we just moved back into the Netherlands. So I think we set out a plan for 3 years away. We wanted to save up and buy a property. But of course, it's a little bit as well from the mortgage approval. It's similar to markets also after the offer is made. So what type of requirements are there to be mindful of for that approval to be granted or to be approved? And then also based on, is there a heuristic we can use in the sense of what type of house price we can look for based on our double income?
Okay, so for this, you will definitely need to talk to a mortgage advisor. Okay, I advise you to do 2 things. First, go to your bank. You're already a client there, so they might have something interesting for you, and they are cheaper. But they are limited to their own product. So let's say, hypothetically, which is something that happens a lot, to be honest, is that if you go with ING and then in the process your mortgage gets rejected, then you will need to go to another bank and then pay for another service, okay? But when you're with a mortgage advisor, a private one, then they have access to 10 banks, 30 banks, I don't know. And then if one mortgage gets rejected, they're usually able to just quickly apply for another one. Okay, so that is the benefit you have there. They're a little bit more expensive, but it comes with the quality of the service. And then your questions are very specifically related to your finances and to the mortgage. So what I will do is send you mortgage advisor recommendations, and then just book appointments with them and talk. Again, there are no strings attached. You are not obligated to go with them or something like that, but talk to them, okay? They will be able to give you your range. So how much you can borrow combined with Serena, of course, or alone. I don't know how you want to do it. They will be able to let you know whether your situation can seem to be risky or not. That depends usually on investments, assets, things like that. And they'll be able to let you know whether you can remove the financing clause or not, which is super nice to know. So could you maybe pop your email? Could you send your email maybe to me? You can, oh no, you can't chat. Okay, how
I think it's better
do
chat now, but
you will get this presentation, you will get it tomorrow or Monday morning for sure. If you reply to it, then we will see your question.
Perfect. Yes, okay. Perfect. Thank you. Yes, thank you for your help. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, Raiko, is it Raiko? I'm not very sure. You're up next.
Yeah, it's Raiko.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Good day, everyone. Thank you for the presentation. I have one short question. Most of the people buying house together as a partners in a relationship or as a marriage partner. And I have a question. Is it possible to buy a house together with your brother or sister as a family member?
Yes, it is possible to buy with anyone that you like. But of course, that means that you will both need to talk to the same mortgage advisor and see what you can do with combined mortgages, okay? But there's no restrictions. You can buy with whoever one you like. The only thing I suggest to you to do is that if you're not buying with your married wife or your registered partner or something like that, if you're buying with a friend or a family member, then make sure that you also make what we call a cohabitation agreement. That agreement is only between you and the other buyer. We reassure what will happen to the property in case sorry to mention, but like if one of you dies, or if one of you loses their job, or if one of you is bankrupt, or if you fight, or
one of us get
any-
married or anything, and we
Yeah.
separate and stuff like that.
Yes, exactly. So if you are buying with anyone else who you're not married or a registered partnered with, make sure that you have that agreement. It will cost, I don't know, it really depends on the case, could be 300 euros, could be 500, and the notary can do that for you.
May I jump in?
Yes, of course.
Katie, because I had hi Raiko, just so you know, I had the same had a client with the same situation as you have now, but they were two friends, and there was actually mandatory to have the cohabitation declaration to be able to buy the property, exactly for those reasons.
That
It doesn't.
that means that came from a mortgage.
Yes,
mortgage
the mortgage
policy.
lender. So it was mandatory. It doesn't cost much. The same notary that will make your transfer deed and mortgage deed can make at the same time the same document. So it was actually a very easy process.
Yeah. Okay,
Thank you
does
so
that
much.
answer your question?
Yes, thank you so much.
Perfect. Then have a lovely evening, and thank you for attending.
Thank
Okay, so let's see. Julie is up next.
Hi,
Julie.
I have a question about the parental gift that you mentioned.
Yeah.
I was wondering, so my partner is Dutch, and so I was wondering if his parents are allowed to gift that to someone who's not their child, or who, you know, but we're in a partnership. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that will not be possible, but what they can do is transfer that to your partner, and then of course your partner can use that for both of you.
Okay.
The only thing would be, because I had this recently, of course this is to be discussed between you and your partner, but I had a client who had a gift from their parents of 20K. Which meant that he has 20K more equity in the property. So if this will be a distinction between two, that one will have more equity than the other because of the amount of money that they added, make sure you also have a cohabitation agreement, okay?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That is the only thing, but the parent will need to do it with the child, no one else.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay.
Thanks.
Perfect. Thank you very much for attending. Have a lovely evening. Great, guys. Thank you very much for all your questions. It was super nice. I actually liked it that the chat was disabled. So I think maybe this is something we're going to implement.
I know, I love this. We can hear them for the first time. I love this.
Great. So guys, please, you will get this recording and this a presentation either tomorrow or on Monday. If you have any questions or you want to talk to us more, just reply to that email and we'll get back to you directly. I hope everyone enjoys this as much as we did. And for now, I wish you a lovely evening.
Bye, everyone.
Bye,
Have a nice evening.
Have a nice evening.